Nice.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Happy Wednesday, Hump Day.
Hump day.
Day.
It's my favorite commercial, I think, of the last 10 years is that Camel. You remember that Camel commercial?
Right.
He's walking into the office, Hump Day.
Oh, I
I
didn't
don't
see
know
that.
why I love that, but I think that's what taught me that expression. I didn't know that the people called Wednesday Hump Day until Hump Day.
That's so funny. No, that one. Is it? I wonder if anyone else knew. Like, I don't
Anyone
know,
knew
I
that
was
word
thinking about-
until
It's always funny how like Super Bowl commercials really make some trends. I remember my favorite Super Bowl commercial of all time was probably, like the GoDaddy ones back in the day were hilarious. They were so absurd, like where there was like a guy like there's like eating or Doritos. I remember the Dorito, like there was a dude eating a bag of Doritos and then his hands would get all cheesy. They'd put his finger in like a hole in the wall, and there was some guy on the other end of the wall just like sucking his finger. And he thought it was just like a vacuum cleaner cleaning his fingers, but it was actually a dude on the other side of the wall. Just,
Oh my god. Yeah. So
I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Some of these
I'm
commercials.
surprised they let that play.
I'm shocked that was a thing.
Uh,
I feel like
We'll see.
Yeah.
but
No, I mean, like we were talking about the other day, like this last week on Creative Flux, but how like probably the next Super Bowl is going to be absurd with AI generated ads.
oh yeah, for sure.
Mm.
That's gonna be a huge agency. So we're gonna probably see AI native ad agency like studios like take off.
Totally.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone,
No,
if
it's
anyone in
something
the
we-
audience,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah. No,
I was
I'm
gonna say-
like yeah, and so you go ahead.
sorry. I was going to say if anyone's in the audience and they've seen some of the new shorts and like the AI generated videos that we've been posting out, let us know. Like just like comment Yeti in the chat if you've seen them, or Gorilla. Yeah, comment Gorilla if you've seen it, or if you
Actually, a
haven't seen it.
Sasquatch. So,
Oh yeah, you're right. Sasquatch.
but gorilla works too.
Yeah. Watching it, yeah. So essentially, they're basically the same myth, but one is in the mountains and one's in the forest, right?
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah,
Well, it's like there's just it's like the great ape, right? The ape that's in the forest
Right.
near your town.
But then there's
Uh,
also Bigfoot. Is Bigfoot also Sasquatch, or is that a different?
Bigfoot is also Sasquatch, but I feel like
Yeah.
people have you heard of the word orangutan? You know, like the animal
Yeah.
orangutan.
Right.
That in Indonesian translates to man of the forest. So it's like, so people were calling that Bigfoot for a while, and then they're like, wait a second, it's just this
No, it's
orange guy.
interesting. Probably there's some cool history about. I imagine like maybe people in the Midwest, like they came up, like they all had the same myth, but then they put their own spin on it, so it had different words. Slightly different
Right.
probably climate. So,
Well, there aren't any apes, right, in the forests of North America.
right.
So maybe there were, maybe the last one is still somewhere in Pennsylvania or
Yeah.
Ohio.
I know. There's like still like I managed to watch like 5 minutes of this guy's Bigfoot documentary, and it was just the most annoying thing ever because this guy claimed he had found Bigfoot, whatever, but he would just go in the forest and he'd like behind those trees. I can hear it. If you were here, you could just hear it. I'm like, just show it, dude. I mean, it's like always like never. It's like the same with the alien. Like, there's this funny meme that the quality of an alien like picture and camera quality goes up, but the picture always is grainy and just blurry. Like you just like never can get a good shot. It's just enough to keep the mystique going.
right. It's so interesting, like all like the UFO stuff. And I mean, like I remember 5 years, actually probably 10 years ago, I was walking home, and my parents live on this like hill in Southern California, and they have this like backyard, and I was like outside, and I see this like thing in the sky, and I remember this. It was super weird. It was like it wasn't a plane, it wasn't a helicopter. It was like more elongated and vertical. And it was just kind of like hovering, probably like 5-10 miles away. And I was just like, what is that thing? I had no idea what it is. Still to this day, it was like one of the weirdest things I've seen in the sky. And it wasn't a helicopter because it was like very long. It was like, imagine a plane like vertical. And I was just like, it's just like there. And I just remember just looking at it. I'm like in high school, I was like, what is that thing? I've never seen something like that before. It was weird, but
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
things. I mean,
I'm sure some
Oh.
for users have UFO podcasts or something.
yeah.
Franny is in the house. Franny's
Hey,
back.
Franny.
Hey, Franny, welcome back.
How was the conversation with Franny yesterday?
So good. So good. I was starstruck. I feel like I was talking to a celebrity. It was great.
So
Well-
you, this was for a customer story?
Yeah. So Franny works for a super cool company called Government QB, and they help companies like they help them better contract with the government. So there's, as all of us can imagine, a lot of red tape to navigate, and a lot of things that you need to get right to make sure that you can work with the government. So they help you do that. And Franny, as part of that, creates podcasts to help educate her customers of how to better deal with the government. So super useful. It's that the niche insights we talk about, right? The niche expertise that is trapped in someone's head, and we're just trying to get it out into the world. So
Sweet.
thank you,
How
Franny,
do
for hopping
people-
on.
How do people find that? Like, if they want to take a deeper look into Franny's in your
When Franny's interview comes out, her podcast, I'm trying to get into a habit of including everyone's podcast with the video. So for sure, Franny's will be.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's on our
Yeah,
YouTube.
It is not on our YouTube. It is recorded. It won't go out for
Okay.
at least a couple weeks. Yeah, we
And
still have to get through
I
the
will
old
pick
queue.
the name, but we have an Explore podcast page where if you guys are just interested in seeing what other YellowPod users have been creating, you can go there, search or look at the different categories, and we try to showcase some of the more trending, popular podcasts created. And it's a very wide variety, from all over. Because that's the cool thing with AI podcasts. It's like the spectrum is way bigger. I feel like people create all kinds of stuff. So it's interesting.
Right. No, totally. The Explore podcast page is pretty sweet. I haven't actually gotten to spend a lot of time on the page. I spend more time on the dashboards on our back end. And something that I noticed, and thank you, Franny. This is super cool. Glad you love the platform. These are always like awesome little like notes when people say like either when they post it in Intercom and they chat with us or they say it here. It's sick. But I was on the dashboards the other day and I was looking at some of the podcasts and the custom websites because now we have like user analytics for you all. So like anyone here creating podcasts, you can track your analytics and how many listens you're getting your podcast are getting. But we can see some data too if you're hosting your like how many views a custom website gets. And there's one that gets 20,000 views. They got 20,000 podcast website visits, and I was like, "That's crazy!" It's a one about nursing. I think it's called Acute Nursing, and it's like a series about like just nursing and medicine. It's pretty interesting, but like 20,000 visits in the last 30 days.
Wow. Are they new or did they just pick up recently?
Is the podcast new? Or
Yeah.
I don't know actually.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
But
There's one that I've
I'm
seen.
guessing though they have it's a business or something. They have people or customers or a platform where they probably send it out to like a nursing like thing. But that's awesome. I love those.
I think I've seen it before. It might be a professor making it.
Oh, for
there's a few-
students. Oh, that could be.
There's a few big nursing ones. There's like one embedded. There's one embedded nurse player on their college website, and I've seen that one get some stuff.
We should definitely distinguish between embedded and PageIt by
Totally.
there's probably a way to do it. Like maybe embedded iframe, we add some sort of a parameter that we can use later.
I think at the end of the day, like the embed player, like we can kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit and make that a little bit more lightweight and just make it more of just a customized RSS feed player versus like its own page and all of the above, because then you're right. I mean, page visits kind of get connected to, like we shouldn't count an embed player view.
Right.
As
Well, I mean, I won't say not count it, but count it differently.
Right.
Because that could be an interesting mix as well, like how many embed players versus custom websites, etc.
Totally.
But yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, to your point though, RSS feed player, that could be interesting and stuff. But probably the low hanging fruit is just adding a parameter in the iframe so that we can parse it.
I love how the embed player carries like, you know, a heavy load, and I think Pearson whipped it out in like a day as part of launch week.
yeah.
It was just sort of like a random idea that he had in the middle of launch week.
A lot of people asked for it. I mean, a lot, like when we did our launch week, what was this, in March? I think the first one we did. We'll probably do another one soonish, but we just have to figure out what are five features we can do. In a week
I
or
know.
something.
I love that, like the launch week. I remember it was before I joined, but I remember I saw some of the videos. I was like, that's pretty cool. And also, I feel like those things definitely get traffic. Like there's a company called Halu, Minmax Halu. I don't know which is the model, which is the company, but they're doing a launch week this week. DeepSeek did a open source, day 1, day 2, and it's kind of cool, when you do those features. So yeah, if you guys, if anyone in the chat has requests, if you do this, maybe we'll take you up on it.
It'll be interesting to see if they're like smaller, not smaller ones, but like, not these crazy overhauls. It'll be interesting to see like what you all suggest as features, because when you message in on the support chat or email, like all those features get added to our roadmap. And I know I say this before, but they really do. We have a system that's like one click over into our roadmap, and I'll groom through them. And then sometimes they're just so small that even AI can write the feature for us. And so it's like, please give us feedback here, because then maybe we could release the feature, put it into a launch week, put it out really quickly. It'd be super sweet. So it's
it's pretty cool how it works. Pearson just just tags Claude, and then Claude goes in and just like answers some comments, goes through some checks, and is like, this is how it is. And Pearson's like, maybe you could do this a little bit differently, and then it's done. It's like we have our fourth hire, our engineering intern.
Yeah, definitely. No.
Yeah.
We definitely move a lot faster because of it.
It's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of code that we write and it gets reviewed by Claude, and that's actually some of it not that great of reviews, but like 50% of it actually is like, oh, nice call out. I just wouldn't have done that, and it just pushes me to be a little bit better on like half the time. And this is the worst these AIs are going to be. So yeah, but
for sure,
Steve.
Yeah, shout out to Steve, like business students podcast. That's awesome. I love the teaching aspect of podcasts. It's great, like when you use it as a complementary. I think we've seen it other times too. People complement it with their own course or homework assignments. It sticks better. It's something for students to review as a summary or as a bonus, like add on. For something you didn't cover in the 50-minute lesson. So that's awesome. Yeah,
it's awesome seeing all the universities like as customers. So I think, a huge amount of universities are users. Ivy Leagues, top tier universities, but customers. Ohio State, Berkeley, Columbia, a few from Australia, and I'm just blanking now. Texas A&M. There's like 5 or 6 more that are active customers. So that's cool.
Hey, that's how Facebook started, right? University. We're gonna take over the universities first.
But we're coming after the professors instead of the 18-year-olds trying to see who's in which dorm.
Yeah,
coming after the professors.
Nice.
Totally.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of data, though, I had an interesting day. I was looking at I did this because I was curious. It just randomly occurred to me to look at the number of podcast episodes generated last 30 days based on the video template, because now we have had it for a month. I was kind of surprised, a little like disappointed to find that basically 98% were still the classic audiogram, and very like a couple of hundred were spotlight, karaoke, and classic captions. And I wonder if that's because people just don't know about it, or they don't they like the classic audiogram way better. I feel like it's more the downloads and stuff probably skew it maybe, or they just press the button and that's the first one. But in case you I guess I'm curious about what you guys think about, like how do you interpret that data, or if you've heard any
the power of default. The power of default is a tough one.
Yeah, I think so.
Um,
So I mean, if you guys don't know, we do have different templates. You can like do portrait, square, landscape. You can have captions with different styles, like the words coming in, etc. I feel like it's pretty cool and unexplored feature, relatively. Yeah.
I think that like maybe, I mean, I know we talked about this because it's hidden. It's not like the most visible. It's in the toolbar in the top right hand corner to change
Yeah.
change the template. But I think it definitely makes sense to live underneath the video on the left hand side and just be like, here's like your template library. They can just see like a screenshot of each template, and then you just kind of have a visual indicator, because it's even hard to like know that button is like a template drop down, just because and if you're comparing them, you have to switch between them. So it's not like you have a screenshot that you can easily see what it kind of would look like. So I wonder if just moving it to the bottom left and kind of having like a screenshot of like what the template could look like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could help. For me, I think when we do video, I think that'll be probably a bigger draw, because people will be like, oh, okay, how do I add it? And so maybe that makes it more of a thing that people explore, with libraries and stuff. So yeah, it's funny. I always come back to the video part because I feel like so many other features are kind of logged behind it, but maybe that's
Totally.
that's a huge unlock. But it was just interesting. Yeah.
Definitely. And Blake, I see your comment in the chat right now. It's like, yes, if I remember the podcast template that he showed me. Yeah, so I definitely remember that. There's a lot of templates there as too. So that was super helpful. If you want to share those links with people in the chat, that'd be awesome, because you could download and use the video that we generate for you, and hopefully that's going to be awesome. But if you just want to, if people want to download the audio, and put it into another platform that has more templates, you could absolutely do that, and you should do that. And then let us know if you're doing that and you're downloading audio and creating a template somewhere else. Let us know why, and maybe we could just make it easier into JellyPod. So yeah, totally. And I see this other comment by Steve. Let's just pull this one up.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, this has been something we've, we've gotten, but I'll let Pearson speak to the hacks you can do currently, but I do expect this problem to go away in the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's because I think there'll be a huge quality update coming. But there's something you can do currently, I guess, where you can add more context in the script, etc., when you generate, like exclamation marks, etc.
Yeah, I think this is a hard one, Steve. So some hosts are just way better. It depends on what you're using. If you're using a voice clone, the best way to make the host feel a little bit more animated and energetic is redoing your clone speaking like overly energetic. It's going to really try to emulate your speech patterns. And if you talk and just sound really energetic without many pauses, it's going to be great. In terms of the professional voices or voice designs, which are the two other options. So for anyone out there, we have 3 types of voices that you can use on your host. We have voice cloning, which is a clone of your own voice or somebody else's. We have a professional voice library, which is a bunch of different voices that we've selected. And there's also voice design. And so voice design is kind of, we create a voice based on the backstory of your host. It's actually a pretty cool feature. So if you just create the name of your host and create a backstory, we can just design a voice for you that probably fits that host. I think it's a big call out here that we can do a little bit better to go through the professional voices. I think some of them are a little stale, at least from my opinion, and maybe not be the best. I think there are new voices that we have access to that we could bring in and remove some of the older professional voices that I think don't meet that quality bar anymore. They might have a few months ago, but as AI improves, we can do better, and we can consistently, go back through, groom these things. We should probably do it once a month and just see like, hey, what voices do we have in the library that can we surface the better ones more easily, and can we remove the ones that aren't as animated? So that's, one of the answers here. And then the other side is just like, you could speed up the host as well. So each speech block, if you click on the name, you can set the speed to fast. Sometimes that helps. So you can just kind of speed up the host in your podcast, and that might make it just sound a little bit more natural. But yeah.
My one last tip for specifically the voice clones is when recording, it's okay to say the same stuff. It doesn't need to be 2 minutes of like necessarily the unique words and sounds. So I've actually seen better luck where I will repeat the same 1 minute phrase or 1 minute paragraph, but I'll push myself the first time to be very animated, and then the second time I have the goal of being more animated than the time before. So maybe it's like a psychological hack or something, just to force yourself into being the most animated you can be. And yeah,
totally.
Yeah, and we also revamped. So I don't think people know, but like if you go back to your host profile, and if you feel like the backstory is pretty minimal or you want to revamp it, you can actually click on generate host, give it a prompt, and it'll actually generate a more detailed backstory, which can help in terms of experiences and vulnerabilities that can show up in the personality of the host, which can also in turn affect how the script goes. So
totally.
We've actually and I'm curious what the chat thinks about this. We've been talking a lot about how to make the script sound more like you, and there's different ways of it. There's references to previous episodes, but there's also like the way you say stuff. And so I'm curious, in your experience, do you feel like you edit the same stuff over and over again in every episode, like maybe a certain way you say some things, or is it more about the facts, etc., of every episode, and you don't worry about like the phrases? So curious, what you guys think, how of your editing experience. I guess we'll get back the answer in 15 minutes, but it's something we're really trying to nail down, because what we ideally want to do is every time you create an episode, it gets better because it learns from your past. And so our North Star is you click the generate script and it gets something that basically is 95% of the way that you would have had it edited in the first place. And you're like, wow, that's exactly how I would have phrased it.
Right. And I mean, like, I'll share with the audience right now, and I know there's a bunch of chat comments, so we'll get to these real quick too. But Blal's working on a new feature that's going to come out pretty soon, probably today, where we just have some basic memories of podcast episodes. So a lot of people have been asking, hey, if I create episode 3, I want episode 3 to kind of be able to have a little bit of context on episode 1 and 2. When us three were on this weekly Wednesday, we don't forget every single weekly Wednesday that we've ever had. Like, we kind of remember, at least the general topics about what we talk about every week. And that same concept, we're going to be bringing that to our podcast so that, the podcast series has access to at least some basic high level memories of previous episodes. And hopefully this makes it really like feel more of like a series and engaging and more realistic. So
most definitely. Shall we start cruising down these comments?
Yeah, let's do this.
So this is kind of in line with what we're talking about. This is going to get an enhancement. Already has gotten some enhancements, but really it's just the way that you can describe a real person, right? Say that you visualize a podcast host and you're like, I really like them for this reason, right? They're funny. They are really witty. They speak in like short sentences. They're punchy. Or like it might be something that you really like about their past, right? They're they're from this particular area and they're something like that. Or it could be like a job title. So like one, for example, one of our customers has a professor that has an MD, PhD, and and is British and studied a certain discipline within that. So it's like you can choose the what, the how, and really anything that you want, but just describe very naturally what it is you want to see in this podcast host and their backstory, and you'll be surprised to see it come through.
This is a good call out too. Like we have some training videos on this, but maybe we could maybe do like a few where we just create 5 different hosts, or I'm not sure. Like, what's your thoughts? Is that
Yeah,
do
we
we
definitely
have
have
one?
host.
Yeah,
Yeah, host customization. I mean, every feature for the most part that comes out on JellyPod, we got a video. But this would have probably been one of the first. Host
right.
customization was like our first big thing over Notebook LM. Maybe that and script editing. No, even
Right.
script editing came after,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Wild. So yeah, this is like a core thing. This is deep in it's using the purple UI probably. So maybe we'll need
right,
a
right, right.
revamp of backstory personalization.
I think it'd be useful. I think for Mohammed and others here, it's like maybe we do like 5 different hosts, like create them like the craziest 5 hosts that you can ever imagine, like a wizard from the Middle Ages, and then a British MD PhD. That'd be something, I don't know, crazy.
Just made sweet. Added to our roadmap. Or
Nice.
to my
So
roadmap.
Mohammed, we'll tag you. Mohammed, when we get this video out, I want you to be the first viewer, the first comment. This is going to be made just for you. It'd be perfect.
Yes. Don't sleep until it comes out, because we want you to be the first, the first to get it, regardless of when it comes out.
Sweet. Let's go through. So Samuel, I mean, thank you so much. Samuel's just showing how it's like amazing, and he's going to remember how being among the first people to really enjoy JellyPod. Yeah, love that you're here and like the platform. But yeah, so going back to that one about video, totally. This is something, it's the forefront of everybody's mind. VO3 is in a lot of conversation. We see video models coming out very frequently, more so now than they have been in the past. They're getting really good. You might have seen the ASMR, the AI videos, or the stormtroopers or Yetis, Sasquatches.
Or ours too. We've done. Jason's done some cool Yeti versus Sasquatch podcast series, so check it out. We should probably link that as well.
Yeah, comment. It's in the email that they got. So
Nice.
if you got the email, check it out. Tell me know if you want me to make more of this. Basically, the premise is there's a Yeti and a Sasquatch, and they sit down to make a podcast, but something always goes wrong, and they can never get their first episode out. And if only they knew about JellyPod, they'd be fine. So I'll keep making those if people want to listen to them, but it's hard to see or watch them. But it's hard to tell.
Totally. Yeah. And this is a cool, segue. For anybody else in that email, on the Weekly Wednesday email, we also are going to do another podcast. If you're interested in like a more technical deep dive into the world of generative media, and we try to keep this Weekly Wednesday as focused on JellyPod, have some nice conversation. It's going to be a live stream so we can all interact together. But on Fridays, we're going to start to release a podcast called Creative Flux. And it's just a little bit more technical deep dive into the world of generative media, talking about, the other tools that people are using, and just like the trends we're seeing. I think this week we'll focus a lot on text to speech. We didn't get to talk about it last week, even though we kind of wanted to. But yeah, so check out Creative Flux. The podcast is on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere that you get your podcasts, and you could hear more of us and talk about AI and generative media. So yeah,
exciting times.
Totally.
Yes, Kevin, you can absolutely determine the duration. This is one of those things. It's hard to to get people, because it seems like it's one step after where people want it, but you absolutely can. The outline editor is the way you control the length of your podcast, and then also the script editor. So the outline editor lets you kind of set up the scaffolding. Every chapter by default is 3 to 4 minutes long. So the default episode will not go over your 10-minute maximum. But if you'd like to go to the next step, you might add a 4th chapter, and in that case, it'll be right within that zone that you want. And then, of course, you can edit the text, add speech blocks, remove speech blocks to fine tune that thing down to the perfect duration.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a question that comes up over and over again. I feel like maybe there's a better way to surface this with an approximation, like time or something in the outline or something. It makes it more obvious that that's how you control the duration.
Yeah, and I wonder if chapter outline, if the chapter durations is the best kind of granularity here. Maybe it's just, episode like maybe when you create your podcast, you set a time. It's like, hey, I want each episode to be 10 minutes. Or when you create your episode, each episode should be 10 minutes versus chapter duration. Because like right now, I think, each chapter is like 2 to 3 minutes long. They're on the shorter end. They like a 3-chapter episode won't go over 10 minutes like ever. It's normally actually around like 6 to 8. So adding more depth into the outline in those chapters will definitely make it longer, but we default to 3 chapters too. So like if you want a 15-minute podcast, just by plugging in sources, it's gonna be hard to get there without adding additional details to your outline, which is probably a good shout. So yeah.
Yeah.
So next person.
Yeah. This is just Blake's talking about the podcast templates, right?
More motion, more movement. One additional thing about the AI generated stuff. So, I mean, I'm sure lots of folks have seen the talking avatars, and the lip movement to me is still, or it's always either the lips or the cheeks that to me make it kind of hard to watch. But VO3 has been the first software that I've seen that the first model that I've seen that can actually create it where it's indistinguishable, at least to my eyes. But one major limitation right now is that the outputs are limited to 8 seconds. So like say we wanted to, say we just, we added VO3 tomorrow. The difficulty of a 10-minute podcast is that it would be stitching together, 70 of these little clips,
Right.
and getting continuity from clip to clip is fairly difficult.
Yeah.
And
it's
it's tremendously expensive. You'll spend the $420 on that one 10-minute episode right there.
Yeah.
So, but
it's going to come down and the duration will go up. So I think it'll happen. So, excited for that. And there are ways I think we can like get to consistency. I've flirted the idea, please let us know what you think, but having host avatars and stuff, like you can actually give a host not just a backstory but a face and stuff, and then we can animate that face for you. So I think that'd be super cool.
It's pretty interesting. I mean, there's a change that we made this past week, and we'll talk about this in a second. I know we're also at 10:30, but I strongly believe that whenever a user or anyone can upload an image, I think there should be a paired generate image option. So I think we're going to move to a world where whenever you can upload an image into any web interface, there'll also be a button to like generate an image based on a prompt. I think we'll kind of have that. We kind of already have that today. When you create your new podcast, and you don't upload an image, we'll use your title and your description to kind of generate that cover art for you. A lot of people love that. And that could be the same thing for your host avatar, where we generate like an avatar for you in like the style, like cartoonish or realistic or whatever. Could be like that as well. For hosts, if avatars were that thing that we wanted to do.
Definitely.
And I mean,
Steve here, great shout on the script editing is a huge feature, and a lot of our happiest customers are big script users in the sense that you can get accuracy correct and even do things like this where you can add commas, remove commas, add dashes, add speech blocks. There's a lot you can do to change up the the way that people sound beyond just the pronunciation guide. So highly recommend doing this stuff. Hit regenerate, try it again.
Right. Totally. And I know there's like some other ones here as well about French. French should work. I'm curious what's the problems on the French. I don't think any of us here speak French, so if it's like a language issue,
we'll say bon jovi to French people. They get mad, right? So.
Well, we just lost them. I think, did you try to, sometimes it's difficult to find that the drop down for French lives on the podcast. So people will try to look for the hosts. People will try to, add French backstory or French names into the into the host. Sorry, I meant to say episodes the first time, but it's neither episodes nor hosts where you set this. It is at the podcast level. So you everyone gets a default podcast created for them. So you can edit it there. But we have a new flow for doing things now that should make this a lot clearer and easier to discover.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the big feature that came out this past week was improved onboarding. So I know everybody on this call probably, I mean, you're probably a JellyPod user already, but if you're watching the recording, when you onboard now, we'll ask you some questions about like what's the podcast you want to create, give us a description, we'll generate some hosts for you. You can listen to them in conversation and just kind of get that unique podcast right out of the gate just for you. So it's pretty cool. If anybody on the call wants to try it out, you can just go to jellypod.ai/studio/onboarding. And you can generate a new podcast going through that flow. So little Easter egg there if you want to check it out. So go to /onboarding. But
Also linked in the email.
Right.
So if you can't remember that, just click that thing in your inbox.
Yeah,
totally.
for sure.
But yeah, and there's a lot of new things coming out soon. We're working on a lot of stuff, host memory, podcast memory, these types of things that make it going to be more realistic. Voice improvements that are going to come very shortly, video improvements, and there's just a lot of things around the edges that are getting fixed under the hood. So if you're one of those people that, you know, you find a bug and something wasn't working, I know there were some things that weren't working this past week, and you message us, hopefully we get it resolved within 24 hours or much quicker, hopefully. Those are super helpful for us, so keep them coming. And hopefully we just build the system to be a little bit more resilient and less errors and bugs, because nobody likes to generate a podcast and see their render failed. And yeah, so we're working on those things, the details.
For sure. Yeah, it's gonna get a lot better, and I'm excited for it. I think our goal is like basically in the next few months, you're gonna look back at the first episodes of JellyPod and be like, what? Like, you know,
Totally.
this is crazy. Like, you know, and
People already saying that. I had 2 calls this week where people were like, I'm almost like a little embarrassed by my first episodes because now they've gotten so much better. And
Right.
it's funny to hear about.
well, that's the podcast journey, right? They say the first episodes you do when they're on camera, they're like, oh, I was so nervous, I couldn't phrase it. And now 100 episodes later, you know, so it's like part of the journey.
Totally.
I guess we all get better.
That is funny.
Totally.
Sort of these things are parallel. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know. And well, for everybody that joined and tuned in today, I think we'll wrap this here. But thanks. Thanks for joining. As always, we had a solid turnout today. A lot of interaction in the comments. It's super awesome. Really appreciate everybody that comes and watches this. I know, depending on where you are in the world, it may not be the most convenient time, but it means a lot to all 3 of us that you guys come in, you're interactive, you're asking questions, and we do this every Wednesday. So if this is your first time watching the Weekly Wednesday, we do it every Wednesday, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific. And can't do the conversion for everybody around the world, but 10 a.m. Pacific, and hop on and we'll just talk about what we're building, what we've released, answer any questions, and we throw up the recording right afterwards. So yeah, it's the Weekly Wednesday.
Yeah. Hump day.
Hump day.
Hump day.
Hump date. Hump update. Hump date.
Hump date. The weekly hump date. Yeah. Nice. Well, sweet. Okay. Well, I think we'll end it here and tune in next week, next Wednesday, 10 a.m.
Yeah. Also on Friday. So.
Also on Friday.